Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex and today I am bringing you the Try a Chapter Tag Book of the Month edition. Now today, as you can see, we are in a little bit of a different setup. We are doing a super casual video today. My house is a wreck, my kid is here, my laundry's going, but we are just going to take the time to try the first chapter of several Book of the Month selections that I have here. So if you're not aware, I do work with Book of the Month as an affiliate with them, and I have been doing that for almost a year now. I think I started in July of last year. So over the months, I have acquired several books from them. There have been months that I have skipped. There have been months that I've gotten more than one book from them. So I do have several of their selections on my shelf. Book of the Month YA has now merged with the regular Book of the Month service, but it didn't used to be that way. They used to be separate. So I did start originally working with Book of the Month YA, and now everybody just works with Book of the Month. So some of these selections are strictly YA, and some of them are adult. We have a good mix in here, but essentially I have only read 3 of the Book of the Month selections that I have ever received. So I decided it was time to remedy that, and I want to be able to read at least one more of them in this month. I did skip my selection for May, but I have a ton here. So I have 7 books that we're going to be trying the first chapter of and seeing which one I am going to continue with. But before we get into the video, if you're new here and you're not already, be sure to go down and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon down below so that you never miss out on any of my content. And without further ado, let's get started. So really quickly, first, I'm just going to show you all of the books that I have. I will give you a description of each of them as I actually read the first chapter, but I just want to show you the 7 books that we're going to be sampling. And just to be fair to the books, because some of these are a little more hyped for me than others, I'm just going to go in chronological order. So my pick for August 2019 was Mayan Games by Shanna. Then my pick for September was Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. Another book that I selected in September was The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. Then after that, I did skip a couple months and I read a couple of my selections. So the next book we have is from March of this year, and that is The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. And then the next 3 books that I have all came from April 2020. I got 3 books in April, and I'm really excited for all of them. So first we have The Guest List by Lucy Foley, Beach Read by Emily Henry, and The Paris Hours by Alex George. So like I said, we are just going to be going in chronological order of the way that I read these. So the first one that we are going to be starting out with is Mayan Games by Shanna Silver. Now this book is a sci-fi, dystopian, apocalyptic, futuristic, somewhere in there, YA novel that follows the main character Arden, and Arden sells memories. And I haven't read the little synopsis of this in depth, but from what I can gather, she and this other person have all of their memories stolen, and they are trying to figure out who stole their memories, but how are they supposed to do that when they can't remember anything? So the premise of this sounds really intriguing, but I have heard absolutely nobody talk about this. Nobody I've ever heard mention the author. I'm not sure if this is a debut or not, but I know literally nothing about this other than that little synopsis I just gave you. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this first chapter, and hopefully it will blow my mind. The first chapter of Mind Games. It got me about 12 pages in, and it gets right to the action. It is definitely interesting so far. The synopsis that I told you, we meet this girl, she meets a boy, they've gotten their memories stolen. That is all revealed in the very first chapter, so they definitely do not waste any time getting into the action. We find out that Arden goes to this high school that is really hard to get into. It's like a school for geniuses, and her father has developed this technology called Hive Mind, which is where everybody uploads all of their memories essentially to the cloud, and they can be accessed again at any time. So it's like you can never black out from being drunk and forget all your memories again or anything like that. Like, you don't forget anything. And everybody is only supposed to be able to access their own memories, but Arden doesn't ever do what she's supposed to do, and she ends up essentially selling these memories. So people that don't study for tests at her school, they come to her to get the test answers from somebody else's memory, somebody that did study, or somebody comes to her and wants to know if his girlfriend is cheating on him, and so she gives him those memories. Well, in this chapter, Arden's best friend Zoe is there, and they see this random guy. Arden is like, who is that? I don't know who that is. Zoe is like, yeah, you do. He goes to the school. What are you talking about? and they think that it's just a glitch in the system, but it turns out that Sebastian does not have any memories. Arden goes into his mind and figures out that he only has 3 memories, like one from the morning, one that from their conversation just then, and one that she put in his head. And then when she pulls herself up on the server, she sees that she is missing over 7,000 memories. And that is the end of the first chapter. So it definitely gets straight to the action in here. I'm really enjoying it so far. It is going to be very, very heavy sci-fi, I have a feeling, which is fine with me. I'm into that. I don't know if I want to pick this one up right now. I'm not sure if it's exactly what I'm in the mood for, but I am definitely intrigued to get back into this. So the next book that I'm going to be sampling is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. Now this book follows our 2 main characters, Pablo and Leanna, and Pablo is a college dropout and he works at this little deli, and Leanna is like completely the opposite. She is very, very famous on social media, and all she's ever known is fame. I think she was a child star maybe, and they are strangers at the beginning of the novel. They run into each other randomly at like 5 o'clock in the morning. They're kissing on the cover, so I assume that there's going to be a relationship in here. This is classified as YA, I believe. I mean, I got it through Book of the Month YA, if I remember correctly, but the main characters are a little bit older. At least Pablo dropped out of college, so he has to be at least 18, 19. So we'll see how this goes. I'm intrigued. Who knows? Okay, so I have finished the first chapter of Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. This one took me about 15 pages in, and we are following Pablo, our male main character. So a lot of what is in this chapter is mainly like a biography about him, so we learn a lot about him and his family. His mother is South Korean, and his father is from New Jersey, so we get to learn about them and the influences on their life. His father is Muslim also, so we get a little bit of diversity in there. There's already quite a bit of diversity in this novel. We also get to follow Pablo at his job. He's going to his job. He lives in New York City and he works at this little health food store, so we get to hear about that. And essentially the focus of this novel is telling us about Pablo and about how he is really struggling for money. So I'm getting the impression that he dropped out of college because he couldn't afford it, and he even says in here, I'm going to get back into college, I'm just trying to get everything to work out. So he is really down on his luck right now and really just trying to make ends meet. But there wasn't a whole lot of plot really in this first chapter. It was mainly just building our character of Pablo. I like it so far. It's fine. There's nothing really, really special about it yet, but it is only the first chapter. I did peek into the second chapter and it looks like we are still just following Pablo. So I don't think this is going to be a dual perspective. I think it's just going to be from him, which is fine, but there you go. I don't know if I'm going to continue this one right now. Again, I think I might be into something a little bit different just in the mindset where I'm at right now, but eventually I would like to pick this one back up. So next I'm going to be starting The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. Again, I don't know a ton about this one, but I know it follows our main character January, and she is the ward for this guy who has a bunch of different knickknacks and such. And then she finds this secret book and it reveals this whole other world or something like that. I'm not really sure. There was a lot of hype going on about this one when it was initially released, but I haven't heard anything about it in a while. I don't really remember if people liked it that much or not, honestly, but we're about to find out what I think. Okay, so maybe I've cheated, but I've read some of the first chapter of The 10,000 Doors of January. I got about 8 pages in, and the first chapter of this is about 20 pages, so I did not complete the first chapter, but I do know that I'm not going to be picking this up right now. Now, I definitely am intrigued by this. It is very, very atmospheric, and Alex E. Harrow is a really talented writer. The language and the atmosphere is really well developed and well thought out, but it is really dense feeling. It has that kind of flowery writing that makes me think of like Anna Marie Mclemore, which I like, but there's a time and a place for that, and that's not the headspace that I'm in right now. So this definitely sounds intriguing. We get a look into January. She's the one narrating the story, and the way that she speaks to the reader is really, really interesting. And we get to go back to 1901, talking about her and how her father got to be working for this man named Mr. Locke, she is now the ward to Mr. Locke, and we get a little bit of their initial background and how they met. So it is very, very interesting so far, but I just know that I'm not going to be able to make it through something that's this dense and this flowery right now. So while I did enjoy it, I'm going to be putting it down. So next we're going to be moving on to The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. Again, this is one that I don't know a ton about, but I do know that it follows our main character, and I don't remember her name, but she is Mozart's sister. She is very talented musically, and Mozart at the beginning isn't really, and then as he starts to grow into his talent and he starts to surpass her, I think that somebody like offers her this deal or says, I can make you better, but you have to do so and so, and there's some magic involved. I'm not really sure. I have read from Marie Lu before and have really enjoyed stuff from her, but what I've read from her before has mainly been like science fiction because I've read Warcross and that duology. So this is strictly fantasy. I'm really interested to see what we've got in store. Okay, so I have finished the first chapter of The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. This one was very intriguing. So we are following our main character, Nannerl, I think is how you pronounce her name, and she's Mozart's older sister. So in the first chapter, there is this person coming to their house. I didn't exactly get like what his role is, but he is essentially coming to hear her play the Chevier, I think is how you pronounce it. But he's coming to their house to listen to her play. And she, she's nervous, but she starts playing and she thinks that she's doing well. And then her younger brother comes into the room and distracts this man and distracts her father, and they are not listening to her play anymore. And that really kind of sets the tone, I feel like, for this novel about how Mozart is going to eventually overshadow her in her musical career. And it really sets the tone for how she feels about herself musically and about her brother and so on and so forth. And then at the end of the first chapter, she talks about how she goes to sleep and she has this dream, and it's the first time that she ever discovers or goes into the Kingdom of Back. So this was very interesting and intriguing. I really like the writing style, and I really enjoyed the atmosphere of this. It is historical fiction, fantasy mix, so there is a lot of atmosphere. You can definitely tell that you're in old-timey Austria, I believe it is, and it was really interesting. So this is probably right now is my top contender, but we are about to move into the 3 books that I picked up in April, and I'm really interested by all of them. I'm really intrigued, so we'll see what happens, but as of right now, this is the biggest contender. Okay, so now we're moving into our 3 picks that I got in April, and so the first one that I'm going to start with is The Paris Hours by Alex George. I know absolutely nothing about this, but it is an adult historical fiction. I assume that it takes place in Paris. This is the one that I have not heard anybody say anything about. I've heard reviews for Beach Read and the guest list. Haven't heard anything about this one, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. Okay, so I finished the first chapter of The Paris Hours by Alex George. This is literally 2 pages long, so it did not take me very long at all, but we are following our main character, Soren, and what we know about him so far is that he is Armenian, and I think it doesn't specifically say what his career is, but he is a tailor or a puppeteer or something along those lines. In this first chapter, he is sewing a tunic for this puppet, and he has all these different puppets in his workshop, and he makes clothes for them, and that's what he does. And at the end of this chapter, I have to read you guys the very last line of the chapter, which is really what makes it interesting. It says, "His beloved puppets cannot protect him from the demons that pursue him through the darkest shadows of the night. His dreams always come for him in the end." So that is definitely intriguing to me. This novel is very short. It is only 253 pages long, so I would definitely be down for picking this one up. Like I said, I don't know hardly anything about the plot yet because that first chapter is only 2 pages long, but this is super intriguing. Never read anything about this author before either, but I think this one might have passed The Kingdom of Back as my biggest contender right now, but we'll see what happens because the next 2 are my most anticipated out of this entire stack. So I think first I'm going to pick up Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is the one that I've heard more mixed reviews about. If you guys know anything about me and my past with Emily Henry, I have read 2 books from her in the past. I've read A Million Junes and The Love That Split the World, and both of those are like YA speculative fiction. They're like contemporary with a little something extra. I hated both of them. I really did not enjoy either of them, but this is an adult romance, so it's going to hopefully be completely different and hopefully be something that I enjoy, because if I read this one and I don't end up liking it, that will be the end of me with this author. I will probably never try this author again if I don't enjoy this. So we are just going to hop into it. Don't know a ton about this one again. There are these 2 authors that write their own genres, and I think they swap genres for the summer. They probably fall in love. We'll see what happens. We're going to read the first chapter. Okay, so I've read the first chapter of Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one got me about 12 pages in, and a lot has actually happened so far. So we follow our main character, January. It's really weird, and I did not know that I was going to be reading 2 books with main characters named January in this video, but January is a romance author who talks about that her fatal flaw is being a hopeless romantic. So she grew up and she had a really lovely family, and her parents had a really good relationship. Her mother had breast cancer, but she survived. She got through it, and January thought that her life was everything that it needed to be. She was a really successful author. She had a great family. She had a hot boyfriend and a great place in New York City, and her life was great. But then we jump to now she is actually going to be staying in Michigan at a house that used to be her father's. Her father has since passed away. This house is actually where her father used to stay with his mistress, so her parents' relationship was not as great as they thought that it was. Her mom knew about it and never told her, so their relationship is not as great as it was. She is not with her boyfriend anymore. She is obviously not living in New York at the moment because she is struggling to sell a book. So her plan here is to be staying at this house, on this beach house in Michigan, while she writes her new book over the summer, and then at the end of the summer hoping to sell the house and the book. That way she can move back to New York and actually have the money to do all of that. So that is the predicament that she's in right now, and at the end of the first chapter we meet her next door neighbor, and they are immediately off on the wrong foot. They're insulting each other, and he never reveals who he is. He's not facing her and he doesn't ever turn around, but I'm going to assume that it is this rival author that she really doesn't like, that she eventually winds up falling in love with. Regardless, this was super interesting. Definitely completely different than anything Emily Henry has ever done, but I am so into this. This sounds like it's going to be a really, really cool hate to love romance, which is something that I am a sucker for. So I would definitely be up for picking this up right now. I'm gonna say that right now this is tied with the Paris Hours because I'm equally intrigued by both of them, but this one might have just a teeny tiny slight edge because it's lighter and fluffier. So I don't really know yet. I mean, all of these books are very, very interesting, and I can definitely see why Book of the Month selected all of them, but we're just gonna have to see. I've got one more book that we need to sample. So the last book that I'm going to be trying the first chapter of is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Admittedly, I don't know a ton about this one either. According to the back of this book, it just says an exclusive wedding on a remote Irish island. The bride, the +1, the best man, the wedding planner, the bridesmaid, all have a secret, all have a motive, but only one is a murderer. So that sounds intriguing. How many times can I say intriguing or interesting in this video? Take a shot every time I say intriguing or interesting. We're gonna dive into this one now. Okay, so we have completed our first chapter of The Guest List. This one is very, very short. It's about 3 pages long. Basically, we're in the now talking about the wedding. The lights go out at the wedding reception. They blink out. It's kind of freaky. Lights come back on. Everyone's pretty embarrassed about how they reacted to the lights going out. And then there's this scream of terror, it says. And I did peek onto the next chapter, and it goes to the day before, and we're going to start hearing from Aoife, who is the wedding planner. So we are going to get some multi-perspective action in here, which I think is going to be interesting. This is definitely one that I want to get to very, very soon, maybe in June, but just from the very first chapter, it's not really drawing me in as much as I wanted it to. I am actually kind of in the mood for a mystery, but I just am not feeling this one right now just based on the first chapter. So I do think that the winner overall, and the one that I'm going to be picking up next, is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one had a really solid first chapter. I was actually really surprised based on my history with this author, but I went into this cautiously optimistic. It seems like it's going to be cute, seems like it's going to be fun. So this is our winner. Hopefully you guys will see this in my May wrap up and you'll get to know if I really enjoyed it as much as I wanted to. But I will say every single one of the books in the stack I will be getting to hopefully soon. Probably the next one that I'd like to pick up is The Guest List, just because that's kind of the mood that I'm in. But for now, we're going to go with Beach Read. If you have read this, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I know that it's gotten some pretty mixed reviews, but we'll just have to see how it goes for me. But that is it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let me know your favorite book that you have got from Book of the Month. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to go down and give it a big thumbs up, as well as hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon down below so that you never miss out on any of my content. So until next time, bye!